The Carolina Panthers are in a sticky situation with the eighth overall pick in the 2025 NFL draft. With this not being an insanely loaded draft class in terms of being able to find high end players, there probably are only about 5 or 6 players that you know are going to be guaranteed studs. With the Panthers picking at 8, there's a good chance that you might not find an instant impact player. And their biggest need right now is defense. Is there an edge rusher worth taking at 8? I don't really know about Jalen Walker being the right pick that high. I like him a lot, but I don't necessarily think he's a top 10 worthy pick. The Bears, with them being heavily interested in the Ashton Genty, maybe they're willing to trade up and you can get a few more assets trading back a little bit with them. Or maybe the Dallas Cowboys want to move up for Ted McMillan. Going offense isn't out of the realm of possibility for Carolina neither. If you trade down, it's probably going to be because you're going to target the edge rusher. You can get Mike Green out of Marshall. If you fall a little bit out of the top 10, you get a guy like a Donovan Izaraku or James Pierce Jr. And if, let's say, you trade up or trade down with a team like the Steelers who want to draft Shador if he falls, or the Broncos, maybe they want to scoop up Tyler Warren. If you get into the 20 range, maybe you go after a defensive tackle like a Walter Nolan and you pair him up with Derek Brown. Walter Nolan isn't that good against the run, but he's a really good pass rusher. Now, if the Panthers want to go offense, that wouldn't be a bad move neither. Yes, they do have a bunch of holes on defense, but there's only so many holes the Carolina Panthers are going to address on defense in the draft. You're not going to find 4 or 5 defensive players out of this draft that are going to come in right away and immediately improve that defense. So either way, no matter if you go defense in the first round or if you go offense in the first round, you still are going to need a lot more pieces to improve that side of the ball. And there aren't a lot of instant impact defensive players that are going to be left at 8. At that point, when you're on the board, you're hoping that Will Johnson is still available. Will Johnson is one of the few blue chip prospects available in this draft class. If you draft him, you're going to have one of the best cornerback duos in the league between him and J.C. Horn. But if Will Johnson isn't on the board, I don't really believe Jalen Walker is worth the risk. You're better off trading out of the top 10, trading down, getting a few more assets, and getting one of those edge rushers like a Izaraku or a Mike Green. And this is a pretty good edge class. I like Josiah Stewart out of Michigan a lot. I wouldn't be opposed to Carolina going offense 8th overall. As I mentioned, this is a weak draft class. These defensive players, there's no guarantee that they're going to help you improve that area of the ball. A guy like a Tyler Warren, yes, you do have Jatavian Sanders who you drafted, but he kind of looks like he could be another coming of Brock Bowers. You can line him up at so many different positions, and Bryce Young is your franchise quarterback. The priority should be building around Bryce. You can pass on a defensive prospect at 8 because there isn't really none at this point. Unless Mason Graham or Will Johnson are on the board at 8, I don't really think there's a can't-miss prospect that the Panthers have to draft at 8. There's this large consensus of Panthers fans that like to yell at you and say, the defense was so bad last year, JT. We gotta go defense. We can't ignore the defense no more. Okay, you can draft the bust 8th overall by reaching for guys that aren't worth a top 10 investment. The goal is to find players who can come in and produce. So if you get a guy in Tyler Warren or Tech McMillan at 8, and they end up becoming Pro Bowl caliber players, who cares about the defense at that point? Because you could take a Jalen Walker and he ends up being a bust, while guys like Tyler Warren and Ted McMillan end up being Pro Bowl caliber players. Building around Bryce Young isn't as crazy as what it seems. This is their franchise quarterback, and you should do everything possible to make sure that you give him as much weapons as what you can humanly give him to increase his chances of having a great third season in the league. This is a pivotal year for Bryce Young. This is make or break. We still don't know what Bryce Young is up to this point. He looked terrible for his first year in the league, and he looked terrible his first few starts of last season. And then after he had that conversation with Rod Wave, something just clicked. Were we fooled by Bryce Young's second half stretch? Or is he actually going to be able to carry that momentum into his third season? We don't know, but getting him another playmaker like Tyler Warren and Tech McMillan does nothing but help his chances. You can still get a guy like Josiah Stewart and other impact level players on defense later on in the draft. The chances you have of finding an impact player if you're the Carolina Panthers at 8th on defense is the same chance you have of finding one in the later rounds of the draft. Once you get past the 7th pick, it's a crapshoot at that point. There's no guarantee that any of these defensive players that you could be eyeballing is going to be a proven thing, and they're going to give you instant production on defense to majorly improve that side of the ball. And if anything, it probably would be in the Panthers' best interest if you really are looking for a guy who can come in and help improve your defense. Why not take the 8th overall pick and use it to package in a trade for a proven star player? Now, I don't know what star players on defense are on the trade block right now, but if you got a chance to get a edge rusher that's pretty good or a cornerback that's pretty good, why not use that 8th overall pick instead of using it on an unproven draft prospect where you don't know how their career is going to play out? Use the trade for a proven veteran. There's a lot out there. There definitely are some guys on the trading block that the Panthers definitely could be in the running for with that 8th overall selection. It's just when I talk to Carolina Panthers fans about what they should do 8th overall, it's just this large group of y'all who just scream, we got to go defense. And that's understandable. But there's not really a huge basket of elite defensive prospects in this draft class that really are worth being taken 8th overall. Unless you get Will Johnson or Mason Graham, those are really the only surefire defensive prospects that you know are going to help improve that area of the football. And you're still going to have way more holes on that side of the ball anyway. As I said, the chances of you having the opportunity to draft an impact player 8th overall, it's the same chances you have of finding one later on in the draft. You can find good corners in round 2. You can find good pass rushers in the middle portions of the round. Tell me where Max Crosby was drafted. He was a mid-round selection. You can still strike gold without overdrafting and reaching for guys just for the sake of trying to fill holes on defense. Overreaching or overdrafting guys isn't going to help improve your defense if these guys don't have the ability to play.